Here in the shop today we have one of Mallory's trigger products, the DualSync 77100TB, which is a tall deck crank trigger sensor for their Firestorm ignition system. We were tasked by one of our customers to use this sensor for a different engine management system, our VEMS standalone engine management systems, for use on a 632 big block turbo project. So it was a little bit difficult because there's very little documentation on this stuff. The only thing I could find was Mallory's documentation for their Firestorm product, which shows the Firestorm and the actual connector that goes to it with the harness that they sell. The problem is that the diagram that they show is actually backwards. Actually, that's not focusing too well. There we go. So, after some measurements and looking around, I figured out that they reversed the connections here on the wiring harness. This is their harness product here, and this is the Mallory Firestorm trigger. What I've done is I've got it hooked up here on the bench with just a regular old hand drill, so I can spin it at a reliable speed. Basically, what it's got is a set of LEDs on it. Here, I'll walk around to the other side. It's got a set of LEDs on it that indicate crank and cam position as the thing spins around. So basically what we did is we hooked it up on the bench. It takes 12 volt excitation, and then what you have to do is you have to have a 5 volt pull up on both the cam and crank triggers. So what I have is a 2.7 kilo ohm pull up to 5 volts on both, so we could measure the speed. As the input turns, you'll see there's going to be a set of lights. You can see the reflection there bouncing. What that's doing is it's telling you which set of lights or which trigger is pulsing at this particular time. So the red light indicates the crank trigger, the blue light indicates the cam trigger. This is really helpful for when you're aligning the thing, so you can tell where you're at in the cycle. So we've got it hooked up to our oscilloscope here on the bench, and if you watch, this is what happens. So what you're looking at there is a 8-tooth pulse on the crank and a 1-tooth cam, all pulled to ground to trigger. So this should be no problem at all for us to trigger on VEMS. So for anybody else out there looking to use this product, that's what you got. Basically, you need to wire it as follows. There's A, B, C, D pins on the actual trigger itself, which is just a standard Delphi GT150. Pin A is your 12 volt. Pin B is your cam. Pin C is your crank. And pin D is the ground reference. Just make sure that on the cam and the crank, you need to pull it up to 5 volts on each one in order to get it to pulse to ground. That's it. Hope that helps.